There are a number of reasons why I never covered this group in the past, the main one being that they aren't really a faction at all. As the name suggests, they're really just rioters, civilians that have chosen a lawless path in order to survive. A large number of them were simply just put in a situation where they didn't have a choice, where others were small street gangs who have decided to use this opportunity to bolster their ranks and take more for themselves. In New York City, the term rioters is simply used as a name to group the growing number of different hostile individuals and gangs who are unaffiliated with the other larger, more organized hostile factions. In contrast to the hyenas found in Washington, D.C., these street gangs haven't joined up under a single banner. In response to the breakdown of law enforcement, looters ransacked the city. As supplies began drying up, these looters turned to the weaker members of the community. Eventually, these smaller groups of scavengers started growing in order to defend themselves against other groups.
Alright, the guns check out. Let's do this. Yeah, but what if they have kids? Just hold the gun like you mean it. They'll back down, especially if they got kids. Yeah? But what if they won't? Then it's on them. They don't have to die unless they decide they want to. It's their choice. This is some bullshit. Yeah, but I'm not gonna let some rich assholes get a pass just because I got a family. Everyone's got a family, and mine's starving. Now man up, and let's do this.
They roam the streets in packs, taking anything of value, lashing out at anyone who is unfortunate enough to be caught in their path. While they are disorganized and poorly armed, over time they have managed to acquire a number of firearms and weapons from other gangs, and the equipment left behind in the quarantine zone when the JTF pulled out. The growing number of rioters are a constant hindrance to the Joint Task Force efforts of re-establishing control and the distribution of supplies to those in need. Like I mentioned, there is no set hierarchy for the rioter group as a whole, though each gang has their own group leader, which more often than not would be the strongest in the pack. They would usually be found carrying better weaponry and armour than the other members. However, it isn't unheard of for packs to join up to take down larger targets, especially when it comes to the JTF and attacking supply lines, though these relationships would usually end shortly after each encounter. But these aren't always planned. Being opportunists, they can often be found running in and joining the fight with other gangs if they see some sort of personal gain coming out of it. With the dwindling JTF numbers, the rioters show no respect for their presence in the city and will attack without hesitation. But when it comes to the other larger factions of Rikers, Cleaners, and LMB, they know they are heavily outgunned and unorganized, so will avoid where possible.
What about over by the UN? Gotta be a lot of rich people there, diplomats and foreigners. Gonna be easy pickings.
Man, are you crazy? That place is like the killing fields.
What do you mean?
Have you seen those guys over there? Bunch of badass special forces types with some serious hardware too. Top of the line, not that weak-ass JTF shit.
Huh.
And I don't think they're gonna give you a trial or nothing either. They'll drop you as soon as they look at you. So no way, man. Anywhere but there.
The rioters' true strength is in their numbers. Like the Cleaners, this is their city. They know the streets. They know the best places to use to their advantage. If they can bring enough bodies, they have just as good a chance as anyone to surprise and overwhelm even the most organized group. These are the people who are a large part of the reason the JTF were forced out of the quarantine zone and the subsequent fall of the first wave of division agents. Outside of the smaller groups found on the street, the second wave division agents first encountered the rioters at one of Brooklyn's precinct police stations. They have taken control of the compound and are holding several officers hostage. Using the element of surprise, the agents quickly sweep through, clearing out the hostiles and freeing the men and women. While moving through Manhattan, the agents are tasked with assisting the JTF with clearing out a location that would become a forward operating base, a place that would later be known as the base of operations. The agents come to the support of the JTF and clear out the small group of rioters occupying the area. Though this seemed a little too easy, it was because the bulk of this group of rioters had moved a little down the street and had taken control of Madison Square Garden.
Hey, pack your stuff. We're going to the garden. What? I thought that place was locked down.
Not anymore.
GTF's pulling out.
Everybody's getting together and we're gonna take the place over. So pack your shit, man. You don't want to get left behind.
Oh, holy shit, is this for real?
Oh, hell yeah. And you better sack up this time. I can't cover for you if you won't pull the trigger. Not again.
All right.
And that goes for anyone who gives you trouble. Cops, JTF, civilians, anyone. They get in your way, they're gone.
This location had recently been turned into a SERA field hospital. Dr. Kendall and a number of SERA workers were on site when the rioters rolled in. They were there to commandeer supplies, but also recognized the value of having medical personnel under their control. The division was successful in rescuing Dr. Kendall and the SERA workers, but were quickly made aware of another, much larger group who were assaulting the Lincoln Tunnel checkpoint. Coordinated by Captain Benitez, this checkpoint is an integral part of the supply lines for the JTF, as it was the only checkpoint leaving Manhattan. Given the large number of weapons, food, and medicine running through this area, the gang of rioters sought to take this for themselves, or at the very least, stop the supply, further crippling the JTF in the area. Though this group was considerably larger and much better armed than the previous rioters that had been encountered, they were no match for the joint coordination efforts of the JTF and the SHD. The rioters is just a label that is given to the large number of gangs and individuals who are either using this event as a way to take advantage or simply don't see any other option to ensure their own survival. While they are disorganized and inexperienced, their numbers make up the bulk of the hostile presence in Manhattan and are a constant threat to the mission of rebuilding society. Now, I couldn't make a video on the rioters without addressing probably the most recognizable audio line in the franchise.
He got Alex!
The joke around the community is that every rioter must be called Alex. But my personal headcanon around this is that sometime around the start of the outbreak, after the JTF had withdrawn from the quarantine zone, when these groups and gangs of rioters were starting to establish themselves, a man named Alex was out there making a name for himself. He was widely known and well respected across the many gangs and groups throughout Manhattan, maybe a community leader of some kind. I like to think he was in the process of trying to unite them into a single group, either as a large settlement type structure or, on the other side, a potentially even more menacing hostile faction than we have witnessed today. Either way, this obviously didn't happen. Our character, or the division in general, was responsible for this. Either targeted when things got dicey, or maybe caught in the crossfire, the division was responsible for the death of Alex. The reason they repeatedly call out, "They got Alex," when in combat, is to remind their members of what we have done, in turn having them fight more ferociously for their fallen brother. Anyway, that's my theory. Maybe Alex is just a really popular name in New York, I don't know. I hope you've enjoyed this well overdue video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers!